was raining that evening. Not the soft kind of rain that whispers, but the kind that makes you run for cover, holding your bag over your head, laughing awkwardly as you try not to slip. Emma Carter stood under the small awning of a cafe in downtown Chicago, checking her phone for what felt like the 100th time. No new messages, no calls. No nothing. Her friend Mia's words echoed in her head. "Come on, Em, just go." It's only a date. Worst case, free dinner. Except this didn't feel like a date. It felt like a setup. A prank. She looked down at her cheap shoes, already soaked, and sighed. Why would a billionaire, an actual billionaire, want to have dinner with a girl who worked 2 jobs just to pay rent on a studio apartment the size of his closet? The message had come out of nowhere a week ago. Mr. Ethan Reynolds would like to invite you to dinner at Le Mans, the most expensive restaurant in the city. She had laughed when she saw it, thought it was a scam. But Mia, ever the curious one, Googled him. And there he was, Ethan Reynolds, CEO of Reynolds Enterprises. Heir to an empire. Handsome, sharp, the kind of man who didn't just walk into rooms, he owned them. Still, it didn't make sense. Emma was a nobody. A receptionist at a dental clinic, so why her? Now, standing outside that glowing restaurant window, watching elegantly dressed people walk in, she felt ridiculous. She was about to turn away when a voice behind her said softly, "Emma Carter?" She turned and froze. He was real, tall, confident, but not in an arrogant way. His smile was warm, his eyes calm, and even in the rain, he didn't rush. He just looked at her like he'd been waiting a long time. "Yes," she said, hesitantly. "That's me," he smiled. "I'm Ethan." I thought this might be a joke," she admitted nervously, brushing her wet hair from her face. He chuckled, offering his umbrella. "Then I guess I'll have to prove I'm real." Inside the restaurant, the world felt different. Golden lights, soft jazz, the smell of truffle and wine. Emma tried not to fidget as they sat. Every detail, and from the waiter's bow to the silver cutlery, screamed luxury. "Why? Me?" she finally asked, unable to hold it in. He leaned back slightly, studying her. "Because you're the only one who didn't treat me like a millionaire." She blinked. "Excuse me?" He smiled faintly. 3 months ago, I came to your clinic. My niece had an appointment. You were the only person who actually looked at me when I walked in. Not my suit, not my watch. Just me." Her mind raced. She vaguely remembered that day. A man with a little girl sitting quietly in the waiting area. He continued, "You offered me a glass of water and told me the wait would be long, but that she'd be in good hands. You didn't recognize me, didn't care who I was. You were just..." Emma's cheeks burned. "I was just doing my job." "That's what everyone says," he replied softly, "but few actually mean it." Dinner passed with laughter, awkward at first, then warm. He wasn't what she'd expected. No arrogance, no rehearsed charm. Just a man who seemed lonely. When dessert came, he asked, "Can I tell you something crazy?" She smiled nervously. "After tonight, I think I can handle crazy." He took a deep breath. "I've met hundreds of people in boardrooms, parties, galas, but no one made me feel seen. Until you." Emma's heart raced. She didn't know what to say. Then, as soft music played and the rain outside turned into a whisper, Ethan Reynolds, billionaire, icon, the man she thought couldn't possibly be real, got up from his seat and knelt down. The restaurant went silent. "Emma Carter," he said, his voice trembling just enough to feel honest. "I know this sounds insane, but I've spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from me. You're the first who asked nothing and gave me everything. Hope, simplicity, peace." He pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. "I don't want to waste another minute pretending I'm happy alone. So I'm asking you, the woman who reminded me what real means, will you marry me?" Emma stared, her mind spinning. Every head in the restaurant turned. This couldn't be real. It had to be another joke. Another setup. But when she looked into his eyes, calm, vulnerable, waiting, she realized something. It was real. Tears welled up as she whispered, "Why me, Ethan?" He smiled softly. "Because when I was invisible, you saw me." The room filled with applause as he slipped the ring on her shaking hand. And in that moment, soaked in disbelief, love, and laughter, the girl who thought it was a prank realized she had just found forever. The restaurant still echoed with clapping hands, camera flashes, and murmured gasps. Emma could barely breathe. It all felt like a dream she hadn't asked for, unfolding too fast for her heart to catch up. The moment she stepped out of the restaurant with Ethan, the cold night air hit her face like a slap, reminding her that this was real. The rain had stopped, but her world was spinning. "Ethan, I can't just say yes," she whispered as they stood beside his sleek black car. He smiled faintly. "You already did." She shook her head, her voice trembling. "I said it because I was shocked." "You don't even know me." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're right. Maybe I don't, but I want to." He opened the car door gently. "Let me drive you home, Emma. No pressure. No cameras. Just two people trying to figure out if this madness means something." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. The ride was silent at first, city lights passing through the window, reflections flickering on their faces. Then Ethan spoke softly. "You know, I haven't done something this impulsive in my entire life." Emma looked at him surprised. "Really? You seem so sure." He laughed quietly. "That's the thing about being rich. You're trained to look sure even when you're completely lost." She smiled despite herself. "So you're saying you're lost?" He glanced at her. "Completely. Until tonight." Something in his voice, raw and sincere, softened her walls. When he dropped her off at her small apartment building, she turned to thank him, but he spoke first. "Can I see you again?" She bit her lip. "You already proposed, remember?" He smiled. "Then let's start over. Coffee. No rings, no restaurants, no photographers." She nodded, finally smiling. Coffee sounds real. Days turned into weeks. Coffee dates turned into long walks by the river, late-night talks on park benches, and moments that didn't need words. For the first time in years, Ethan stopped checking his phone every 10 minutes. And Emma, who had spent most of her life blending into the background, found herself seen, truly seen. But the fairy tale didn't stay perfect for long. One morning, as Emma walked into work, her coworker gasped and shoved her phone in front of her. It was a tabloid headline: "Billionaire CEO engaged to unknown receptionist. Real love or hidden agenda?" Her face was there, smiling, unguarded. Beside Ethan, the comments were cruel. "Gold digger. He'll wake up soon. She's after his money." Her chest tightened as she scrolled, each word like a blade. When she got home that night, Ethan was waiting outside her building, suit still on, tie loosened, exhaustion in his eyes. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go public." She looked at him, tears threatening. "They think I'm using you." He stepped closer. "Let them think what they want. We know the truth, but do we?" She whispered. "I don't belong in your world, Ethan." He took her hand. "Then I'll leave mine to be in yours." The simplicity of his words broke something open inside her. She wanted to believe it, that love could exist beyond wealth, judgment, or fear. Weeks later, he invited her to a small gathering at his estate. No photographers, no reporters, just close friends. She wore a simple white dress, her hands trembling as she arrived. Everyone was polite, but she could feel their eyes. Halfway through dinner, one of Ethan's business partners, a polished man with a cold smile, raised a glass. "To our dear Ethan, always finding creative investments." Laughter rippled through the table. Emma froze. Ethan's jaw tightened. He stood up. "You're right," he said calmly. "She is my greatest investment." The room went quiet. Because for years I invested in everything that didn't matter. Companies, buildings, power. But she taught me the only thing that grows without cost is kindness. He reached for Emma's hand. "And for that, I'd trade every dollar I have." No one laughed after that. A year later, they stood in a small chapel, not a mansion, not a ballroom. Just close friends, quiet music, and love that had been tested and proven. Emma wore a simple gown. Ethan's daughter, Lily, a little girl she had come to love like her own, held her hand and whispered, "Mommy, you look like a princess." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "No, sweetheart," she whispered back. "We all do today." When Ethan took her hand at the altar, there was no flash of cameras, no audience waiting for a headline. Just two souls who found each other in the noise of the world and chose peace instead. "I thought it was a prank," she whispered as he slipped the ring on her finger. He smiled softly. "And I thought love was a myth." The priest spoke the final words, and in that small, sunlit chapel, laughter and tears mixed as two lost hearts became one, because sometimes the love stories we least expect are the ones that save us.